We're starting. All right, we're back. We have, right after our lunch, we have a presentation from Team 16091 TWCA. The presentation is going to be on how to have a successful rookie season. So if you guys want to join me down here, TWCA. Team Brooklyn. Brooklyn. Jared.
Only last season.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, turn around and be quiet then.
Okay.
Okay.
Any visuals or anything like that? No visuals?
No visuals. Nope, we're good. Okay, so because it's on how to have a rookie season, so I'm Lynn and I'm with the STEM squad, but I captained this team last year in our rookie season, so I am going to stay up here and help them present.
All right, we're team 16091, Team South Washington. We were a rookie team, and we are based off of the MHO Phineas and Ferb. We have won multiple awards during our rookie season, such as the Think Award for our engineering notebook, the Control Award for using our sensors and algorithms, the Motivation Award for our outreach and volunteer work, the Connect Award for our work in seeking out engineering and technology professionals, and we have also won the Inspire Award for showing strong and the Judging Award categories. We have a lot of our previous teammates from last season here to present and tell you more about what to do during our season. Anna?
So my priority for our first season was to work on branding for our team. I don't know where I'm supposed to be looking.
The camera's right there.
Okay. So the first thing that I wanted to do was to make sure that as a rookie team, we were recognizable, because that was one thing that I noticed on my first competition is that a lot of first year teams or younger teams, that was like, their name was like just a number, or you couldn't even like differentiate them from other rookie teams. So the first thing that I wanted to do was to make sure that we were like set apart. So one of the first ways that I tried to do that was by giving us colors, and we brainstormed all together our Phineas and Ferb theme. And so we chose Prey the Platypus to focus it down more, and we used his colors obviously. And then we wanted just more like symbols are great for differentiating yourself. Like give yourself like a logo or something that you can put on things that people are like, oh, that is that team. Another good thing is to give out physical handouts, something that people can hold in their hand and take home with them afterwards, something that they can remember. So it's also good to pick something and stick to it to keep your designs cohesive as the season goes on, and even as you continue on, no longer being a first year team, just so that as you carry on, you're still recognizable and you don't change everything up from year to year. Team names are really important. You don't want to pick something that a lot of other people have chosen, and you want to pick something that isn't too difficult to pronounce or remember. So yeah, I feel like we did a really good job of branding on our first year. We wore fedoras and we had trench coats, and we painted our robot to look like Prey the Platypus, and we had googly eyes, and people would recognize our team almost immediately. We did end up getting onto the news, and we never would have been able to get that much attention for our team if we didn't have so many recognizable stuff.
Okay, so last season I was in charge of designing the robot, and I was also helped with building the robot. CAD is a super important part that we did not do very well last year. If you can get Fusion 360, which is a great CAD software. You can get it for free, usually if you sign up with your school email. And it's just such an important thing to have, because I want to say 90% of our problems that came with actually constructing the robot would have been avoided if we'd used CAD. if you're sort of more of like a tactile person who needs to like actually build a prototype to see something before you like make it with the actual parts you have, I would recommend using cardboard, because cardboard and tape, that's what we used. It's pretty cheap, it's pretty easy to work with, and it'll let you get a pretty good idea of how all your measurements work out. But again, I can't stress enough, CAD is a super big part. The judges love when you have a big CAD drawing in your engineering notebook, and it makes, you can get parts machined if you need them from a machine shop, or if you have your own tools, you can make them yourself. It's just such a big thing to do, and it's something that rookie teams shouldn't overlook.
Another big part of the robot is innovation. You want your robot to be different and to have different qualities and designs than all the other robots, because it makes your team, like Hannah said, recognizable. And so you want your robot to be recognizable, so you need to be able to attack the challenges that you're given with the, game challenge with an open mindset and thinking of how you can solve the challenge, and also be innovative and like think outside of the box.
Another great resource for rookie teams and any team in general are the game manuals. There's typically 2 game manuals. You have game manual 1 and game manual number 2. Number 1 is super important because it explains all of the rules that your robot has to follow and goes through a schedule of what a competition is going to look like, which includes how the rounds will work, and also robot inspection, which is super important. If your robot doesn't follow all the parameters and you show up at a competition, and you don't want to have to make a change the night before competition. So it's important to make sure that your robot follows all of the rules in advance, so you're not making these changes before the competition, because it sucked to find out the hard way in person and the robot inspection. And game manual 2, that has all the rules for the actual game. So like for this season, there's mostly shooting based things. So you got to follow the rules for that. Like I think you can't shoot higher than, is it
It's like 5
feet?
feet.
So if you show up to your robot inspection and your robot shoots higher than 5 feet, it sucks to be disqualified because your robot's just too good. And yeah, seasons like this are why we have to wear safety glasses at competition.
And other reasons.
And other reasons.
People lose eyes. It's fine.
What?
And also, as far as programming goes, most of the programming is done in Java. That's the most common programming language that's used in FTC. And it's usually done through two different programs. You have OnBot Java or Android Studio. Both of them, there's links to both of them on the FTC website. And if you're completely new to programming and you're just stepping up from Lego League, there's also block programming, which is probably as easy as it's going to get, but you have to sacrifice a lot of things, like maybe you can't do as advanced with sensors or cameras or anything, but it's still a great resource for learning, or if you want to start with blocks and then eventually transfer into JavaScript. And if you ever get stuck with programming, there's a lot of resources out there to help you, such as Discord or Reddit, and there's also countless other forums out there. So if you get stuck, it doesn't hurt to just Google something, because someone out there might have the answer.
Okay, and then, so a big part of my job was the engineering notebook, and I worked with Hannah on some of the design things, specifically our social media and connecting to other teams and sponsors through social media. It's really important, at least like we found it was really helpful to have an Instagram account. We could reach out to other teams, we could meet people, same with, like Jared said, Discord, and the other one, Reddit, that one. Because we could say, you know, we had this problem, and other teams could say, hey, we did too, this is how we fixed it. One of the coolest things that we brought up over and over in judging was it Discord that we met the team? We met a team from Africa who didn't have access to the sky stones, and they would 3D print them, and that took hours, lots of material. And so we had a full set, we just sent them some of ours. And we wouldn't have been able to make that friendship, make that connection without the social media and running that. And I mean, not a lot of teams, at least smaller teams in smaller towns, they don't really think about that. I mean, we've met people all over the world because of it, but I mean, I would say that's one of the first things. Like when you start a team, start a social media account. That's how you reach out to people who are further away than your area. Like my teammates have said, that's how you get recognized. Which one was I supposed to talk about?
What can you talk about scouting?
Scouting is so incredibly important, no matter how your robot is. Things happen. So a lot of teams who maybe aren't doing so hot are gonna be like, we don't need to scout. Like, we're not gonna be in alliance. We're not gonna need to choose people. Like, no. But last year, it was the SEU qualifiers, the most stressful moment of my life. We were in like 6th or 7th seed, and I was like, okay, like whatever. We're not gonna choose people, like a hell list kind of, but like it's fine because hopefully we get choose, but we're not gonna need to choose people. And then the top people just kept picking each other, and it just bumped us up until we were like 3rd seed. I was like, and I just looked at the list and I chose a random person. And luckily that worked out for us, but that's not always the case. So you do, no matter what, want to be scouting. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know the situation. You want to scout, and you want to make sure that you have options of teams that are compatible with you.
And I was a scout last year, and I would say that also with what I was saying earlier about being recognizable, that's also a really important thing when it comes to scouting. Like it will really help your team out if other teams, while they're scouting you, can recognize you on the field as well as outside, because you just want them to know like your name. Like it's great if they can associate your name and number. That makes things a lot easier for them to be able to find you. It's really good to also keep track of other teams, like pay attention to other teams. They can be great for all sorts of things. Like you can see who's like programming best complements yours for autonomous and stuff like that, but you can also look to them. Like say that a team has really good branding, you can look at what they do. Like a lot of people, what I first did when I was trying to brand our team was I went around and looked at other teams' pits, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. And having an interesting pit is super important as well, because you want people to spend time there. You want judges to spend time there. You want other teams to spend time there. You want people to know who you are and want to spend time with your team. So that's really important. I would also recommend maybe taking a graphic design class for branding your team, because if you take a graphic design class through a high school, then you can have free access to the Adobe design programs, and they're really great for helping you with your branding, and you can work on stuff in class. Usually that's what I did, and they're great for teaching you a lot about basic like design principles, how to make sure that your designs are like really stand out and are like readable, and just really will help you put your team branding to the next level.
Questions?
Okay, I am gonna jump in. I just wanted to give you guys space, but I wanted to talk about some, I'm not sure right in the middle, I guess. I wanted to talk about some, I guess, tips for rookie teams geared more towards coaches. And this can also apply to the members of the rookie teams. And so I just wrote down some notes of things that they kind of didn't talk about. One of them is one of the most important things that you can do, especially your rookie year, is fundraising, because it is fairly expensive to run a team. I don't know what it's going to look like this year because teams aren't going to be traveling as much, and traveling is a huge expense. But last season, our team cost probably around $6,000. But we were a very active team, so of course we accrued a lot of expense. So there's lots of ways that you can do fundraising. Just literally get on Google and search, grants for STEM. You'll come up with some options, and then it depends if you're an educator. There's going to be grants that are only accessible to educators, especially through like the Utah STEM Action Center has grants, competition grants for schools. Then there's traditional sponsorships. That means that your team can go talk to companies in your community. I was learning from, he was the founding mentor of, which I think is a retired team now, Prestidigitators Brian Allen, and he was talking about fundraising, and he said to not leave any stone unturned when it came to fundraising. And so always talk about the fundraising that you need to do, talk to businesses about what your team does, and you'll be surprised at who will, have even just $100 here and there that they can throw to your team. Helps a lot in the long run. Product sponsorships this year, a lot of businesses will be maybe not willing to donate money, especially now in COVID times, but they're willing to donate product or use of their facilities. We spoke with the company Chums. If anyone's familiar with Chums, they're based in Hurricane, where we're also based, and they make eye retention straps. And so we talked to them about a problem that we have with our safety glasses, always sitting them down, leaving them behind, or you put them on your head and they fall off, or you clip them in your shirt and you bend over and they fall off. And so they sent every member of our team a pair of Chums in our team colors to match our team
We didn't even ask.
for free.
They just sent them.
So yeah, they just sent them. They were like, we would love to help your team out. Here's a pair of Chums for every member in orange and blue. So that's a really exciting thing that happened that just came about by talking to people in our community. And then untraditional fundraising events, we've been having online bake sales. We've been doing farmers markets and just picking up, doing state fair or county fairs, fundraising booths at county fairs. And we've managed to raise about $3,000 so far this season that just started today. By just not leaving any stone unturned with the fundraising. Biggest thing, moving on from fundraising, is setting goals. Last year, after we attended the launch at SUU, we all went back to my house and we said, okay, so what are some goals that we want to make? And I think the first thing that somebody says was, go to the World Championship. Well, every team kind of really wants to go to the World Championship. I mean, I guess some teams maybe not, but for the most part, people that's the big prestigious goal. You need to break it down from that. Okay, so you want to get to the World Championship, but how are you going to get to the World Championship? You need to build a robot that can compete first. You can't just build a robot. You have to break down the goals of what do you want the robot to accomplish. So you have to really start with, okay, we need to build a drivetrain. You start small. What kind of drivetrain do you want to build? So you need to, research different options using Reddit, using Discord. There's a lot of teams that are willing to talk to you about different options. Gracious professionalism and cooperation are something unique to the FIRST program because all of our teams are competing against each other. But FIRST has made it so that we're rewarded for helping other teams so that we don't just hoard all of our ideas to ourselves. So you really have to go out and seek the advice of other teams, especially when you're a rookie season. We spent a lot of time, like Hannah was talking about, visiting other teams' pits and deciding what made them memorable and how do we make our team memorable. And then we spent time on social media. We created social media accounts so that we could see what other teams were doing. And so definitely do that. Also in setting goals is, I read this on a website. They talked about pick an award to go for. Pick one award that you might want to go for and then really focus in on that because there's so many things to focus on. If you want to, the Inspire Award takes a lot of work. But you can say, well, I want to work on the Connect Award. And so then you can reach out to the engineers in your community, which can help you better build your robot. And in doing that, you're working on your Connect Award. Another thing that I wanted to talk about was attending the earliest qualifier that you can. So last year, we went to the West High qualifier that was in early December. And everyone thought we were crazy because it was our first year. We were going to an early qualifier. I mean, we felt like we barely had a robot working. And then we ended up learning, I think, so much from that qualifier. And most of the kids,
If
Hmm?
I can add,
you can add?
if I can, to what you're saying about going to the qualifier.
Yeah, just a second.
Okay.
So Jocelyn had been on a first team before, and Caitlin had been on a first tech team before with another team. And so they had some experience with competitions, but the rest of our team was completely new. And so they had no idea what to expect. And you could tell stories all day about what to expect, but until you actually experience it, you don't really get the feel for what the culture is. And so when you attend that first qualifier, then it really gets the rest of the team pumped up and ready to go. And then they can see like where they need to improve their team and see what awards maybe they want to go for.
Yeah, and then that was kind of what I was saying, like, with a few of the members, we weren't even sure, like, how long they were gonna stick around, but after that first competition, hooked. Competitions are addictive. Okay, we are almost out of time, so I would like some
Okay.
questions.
Yep.
Questions? Did you have any? You seemed excited about questions.
You guys covered a lot of what I would.
We did, we talked a lot.
What?
We talked a lot.
Yes, you did.
There's a lot. We're good at that.
And no one sent any messages online, so.
Okay, cool.
No, nothing new.
Okay,
Then yeah,
I think we're good to go.
cool. Have a good season.